Good morning. All of you, have you done the assignment? Assignment, is it finished? Am I audible? Okay. Only two people have done it. Okay, rest of them, did you face any difficulty? Because I am seeing only Shreya Hebbar has answered the question. And also, register number 62. I don't know who is that. Only two of them. See, my question is, I have given an assignment on the previous session. In the previous session, have you done the assignment work? Those who have joined now, those who have missed this question, same question, I'm just. Okay, type your USN. Once you log in, I won't be repeating this. Type your USN in the group chat. Okay, we'll continue with our class. Only 35 participants right now. So we'll not wait. Almost 5 minutes is over. We'll just continue with our work. Okay, we have seen boundary value analysis technique. Now, the time has been come to know that what are all the advantages and disadvantages. Pros are nothing but the advantages, cons are nothing but the disadvantages. They have been listed several particular lists among the advantages and disadvantages. Hope you are able to view the slide that I am just projecting to. So first one will take one by one. First one is always advantages. What are all the advantages that we'll be having with respect to your boundary value analysis? So first of all, it is a commercial tool. Support is available for all. Commercial tool means anybody can ask for it and anybody can go through it. One more particular advantage is easy to do the task because 5 values maximum. Anybody can predict it, anybody can do it, and anybody can automate it. So these are all the 5 values that I need to just choose it. How to choose it? First, you need to fix the range, maximum and minimum. If you get these two values, the rest of it is easy. So that's what it says. Next one is appropriate for calculation intensive applications with variables that represent physical quantities. What do you mean by this? See, calculation intensive applications. That is, for calculating the currency conversion, you can just go for it, where the variables are representing the physical quantities. That is, currency is a physical quantity. It is measured in terms of rupees, euros, dollars, etc., etc., etc. In a similar fashion, if you're going with respect to your networking concept, yes, that's also measured in terms of um, decibels or decibels. So we can use that particular thing. Or else you can go with any other particular temperature if you want to take it. Yes, it is measured in degrees. If you are going with weight calculation at that time, grams, kilograms, like that, you can just have it. So anything you can use it. So in that particular type of application, we can go with boundary value analysis testing. These are all only 3 advantages that has been listed in the boundary value analysis technique. There are so many other particular advantages also, but these are all the main things which will be highlighted once we use boundary value analysis testing. Whereas with respect to the disadvantage, it has a lot of disadvantages. First thing is redundancy. Redundancy here is nothing but if I have a variable, I'll just wait a minute, I'll just share the screen. No audio. Hello? Am I audible? Surya, just check with respect to your uh, speaker or headphone because rest of them are audible to my voice. So just check it out. If anything exists, if the same problem exists, then you got it, Surya. Okay, I'll just pause the screen. I'll just take one more particular screen. So where I'll resume it. Okay. Yeah. So what I was telling you is redundancy. With respect to the redundancy, say for example, I have a variable called as x1. X1 is one variable, and I have one more variable called as x2. The main intention of this boundary value analysis is x1 is should be independent enough with respect to x2. So x1 is different, x2 is different. So x1 will be having the range of values from 1 to 10. Okay. Similarly, x2 variable is also having the range 1 to 10. You can just predict what are all the values that I need to choose. 5 values. Normal boundary value only will just take it. Robust will just take it later. Okay. So 1 will be the first value, followed by 2 will be the second value that I need to assume it. Minimal value is 5, maximum minus 1 is 9, and 10. This is what it will be having, the values. Similarly, the same thing appears to be with respect to your second variable also. 1, 2, 5, 9. My question is, if I take the test case design or input from x1 as 1 and x2 as 1, if I'm getting the one particular output, any output it can be, say you can say it will be listed as one and the same. That's what the output that I'm just looking forward. Output will be same. This is what it will be just printing. Okay, I'm just expecting this. Do I require to go with once again checking for 2 comma 2 followed by 5 comma 5 followed by 9 9 comma 9 because all 5 combinations once again comes into picture 10 comma 10. So this is nothing but your redundancy. So this redundancy is not eliminated completely with respect to boundary value analysis. That is what the first thing is. Second thing is there are a lot of gaps available. What do you mean by gaps? Okay, very simple example. I'll just take one more, I'll just extend this. Shall I rub this? Shall I cancel this? Is it visible for all of you? Hello? Say yes or no. Okay, fine. There is a network delay. Okay, fine. What we were talking about, the gaps, right? Okay. So we had one particular problem statement saying that your sides of the triangle, side 1 uh, ranges from 1 to 10. Similarly, side 2 ranges from same thing. If I just have it, it is not necessary that you need to have the same particular range itself. You can have multiple ranges. There is no problem. Since all are independent, there is no such particular constraint over here. So all of them are one, 2, followed by 5, followed by 9, and followed by 10. We'll just check the values. This is generation of inputs. This is possible with respect to your boundary value analysis. Expected output, we need to predict it based on this. Fine. We have generated the inputs like this. Fine, accepted. But what about the somebody else has kindly switch off, mute the microphone. Those who have joined now, kindly send your USN. That helps us for marking the attendance for you. Okay. Yeah. Coming back to this. Okay. What is gap here? What about the value 3? What about the value 4? We have not checked that. We won't be checking it at all. If anything wrong or exception occurs with respect to it, who will be answerable? So that is nothing but that cannot be addressed in your boundary value analysis. That is a major drawback. See here, inevitable potential for both gaps and redundancies. The gaps and redundancies can never be identified. We go on checking that. So what our intention is? Our intention is to get that particular number of test cases. That's it, to be fulfilled. Whether it is normal boundary value analysis or robust boundary value analysis or worst case or robust worst case, in all the particular cases, we are concentrating more on the number of inputs that we are taking. Yet the rest of the particular inputs, we are not bothered at all. That plays a vital role with respect to your boundary value analysis. That is a major drawback for your failure of the boundary value analysis. Third statement says that does not scale up well. With respect to, there is a bracket. In the bracket, there is one particular law, one person, that is nothing but Jorgensen. He is a person who has written the textbook, the same textbook that you are reading it, Software Testing a Craftsman Approach, Paul C. Jorgensen. So what he is saying is he always thinks about the reliability. This complete software testing is based on the reliability. So reliability theory, what it says is in whichever the condition that you are working with, whichever the type of input that you are working with, every time the system should behave in the similar manner. But here the gaps and redundancy somehow you can just manage it, but gaps are highly, we cannot predict at all where that particular thing goes wrong. So that's where your particular complete failure of your boundary value analysis is available. And whatever the tools that we are using it, commercial tool support available is there, right? That is the advantage that we have stated. That is a major disadvantage also for your boundary value analysis. Tools, what it will be doing is it will generate the 5 different values or 6 different values, whatever the values that you want to have. Sorry, 5 or 7 values. It will be just predicting it. So rest of the expected output should be predicted by yourself. Whatever you predict, that's what. See, one more thing I just forgot to tell you. See here, if I just take the value as, suppose if I choose the value as 2, 2, 9. This is a 3 sides. Can I form a triangle first? So what is the formula that we need to know for checking whether the triangle can be formed or not? 2 should be, 2 plus 9 should be greater than, yeah, another side, right? Yes or no? Once again, 2 plus 9 should be greater than the other side. Sorry, 2 plus, sorry, 2 plus 2 is greater than this statement is false. Yes or no? Agree? Say yes or no. You can type it in the Google chat. I'm just seeing this particular input. I cannot judge whether a particular given input is can form a triangle as well as can be an isosceles or any type of triangle. So looking at this, it looks like it's an isosceles, but after checking whether a triangle can be formed or not, it is saying that it cannot be formed a triangle itself. So this is where we are just looking into. That's what the problem that we will be facing with respect to your boundary value analysis. So any doubt with respect to your boundary value analysis technique? If you have any query, anything to be asked, you can, because we are into the end of this particular boundary value analysis technique. Any doubt? I'm waiting. Okay. Shall I continue? Shall I continue? Okay, fine. Okay, I'll just pause the screen for time being. Have one more screen to share with you. Yes. Is it visible for all of you? Is this screen visible? Yeah. The next technique. Okay, after seeing so many drawbacks with respect to your boundary value analysis, it is time to move on to the next technique under the functional testing itself. This is also a paper pencil work type itself. So all functional testing is based on paper and pencil work. So it is not based on the program that we write it. Programming part is playing a last particular role in this particular type of testing. Although the name comes under the software testing, but we are not going to test the software based on the program that we have written. Based on the specification, we'll be just testing it. So the another technique is equivalence class testing technique. So equivalence class testing, what is this all about? Check it one by one. The outline, motivation, why we want to go for equivalence class, what is the advantage, who bothers actually, or why we need to go for this particular equivalence class. That's what it will be just telling us, followed by what are all the relations. See, mathematical one concept with respect to your discrete mathematical structure, we have studied one concept called as relations. If you can recall it, you recall it, because the same particular concept has been adapted here also with respect to your equivalence. So equivalence class in the sense equivalence relations, that is what it will be just pointing it to. And their consequences. What are all the things that it will happen, everything in detail will just go through. Next one is traditional equivalence class testing. What do you mean by this traditional? Normally, your traditional equivalence class is mainly projected for eliminating or finding out the multiple fault assumptions. Single fault assumptions was a major part which was taken with respect to your boundary value analysis. In the boundary value analysis, single fault assumption we were eliminating, but multiple faults only with respect to your robustness. Some people will be saying that in the robustness test cases, if you take it, then it is possible. Somebody has 66 register number. Okay, we'll just go through it. So this is your traditional equivalence. Normally, it deals with your invalid inputs. What happens with respect to your invalid inputs? Like if you have a range, this equivalence class partitioning is a next particular step to your boundary value. So it will also be taking the same particular ranges to the testing technique itself. So this technique is also available or is also considering the same ranges 1 to 10 or 20 to 20, like that, whatever the range that you have. If you have that particular type of ranges, then of course it will be uh, taking into consideration with respect to equivalence class. What you can just think about it as it's a next version of your boundary value analysis. That's it. One upgraded version of your boundary value analysis is nothing but your equivalence class. So both are one and the same. Only thing is equivalence class mainly deals with the invalid inputs. So although it deals with invalid inputs, it has 4 variations of equivalence class testing. We'll see one by one. We'll say one by one as based on your particular technique. There are 2 ways. One is strong, another one is weak. In the strong, once again, normal followed by robust is that. In weak, once again, normal followed by robust is that. So like that, 4 variations we have. One by one, we'll see it. Don't worry about it. So with respect to the examples that we have, so many problem statements that we had, we will be always considering with respect to only 3 problem statements. That is triangle problem one is, second one is next state, third one is with respect to your commission problem, gunsmith problem. Okay, so those 3 only will be just considering it. We'll just take it forward. So one by one, we'll just check it out. Next one, motivation. Okay, first one itself that has been said is whatever the gaps and the redundancy that we have with respect to your boundary value analysis technique has been overcome. That is the first thing. And your redundancy is completely eliminated when compared to your boundary value analysis. How? We'll just check it out. So this is how, that's where this work has been started. So mainly it was designed for eliminating the gaps and redundancies that was facing a problem with respect to your boundary value analysis. So that is first thing. Second thing is mathematical notation of an equivalence class can potentially help this because members of a class should be treated as the same by a program. Suppose I have grouping a particular area or a space. In that particular space, whoever it is present, whoever I am going to test, each and every individual should result me the same particular type of output. There should not be any change in it. This was the problem with respect to your boundary value. In the boundary value, we were picking only 5 values. We're not picking in the range, although we were considering the range. All the range values, whichever is there, we were not checking it. We just highlighted only 5 or 6 points based on the boundaries. We were taking it. We were just considering it for a test case design. So that is eliminated completely. What the main motivation of equivalence classes, when you group something, the whole particular person inside the group will be treated as in a equality manner. Whoever the value, whichever the value that we'll be picking from that particular group, from that particular space, the result should be one and the same. So it is not mandatory that you are picking only 1, 2, 5, 9, or 10. If you pick 3 also, it should result the same thing. 4 also the same thing. So 10 also the same thing. 11 if you pick it, then also it should result in the same thing, that is out of the range itself. 12, it should result. So like that, they have changed the entire scenario of your boundary value analysis. So just for that, we require this particular technique called as equivalence class. Next one is motivation. We have already designed it. Just look into the slide. You'll come to know what this particular thing is all about. Redundancy, I told you, right? So this is what redundancy is all about. So 3, 3, 3 in a triangle problem, always it will be resulting in one particular type of triangle itself. You can form a triangle, that too an equilateral triangle. So 10, 10, 10, yes. If you are taking the range as 200, in that 187, 187, 187, if you take it, 1 to 200 is the range. In that particular sense, if you are taking it, means this is also valid. Or else, if you are fixing it with 10, and if you are taking it as 187, 187, 187, it should result in the robustness that is nothing but out of the range. Anything is possible. But this is redundancy itself, right? If you take it one, if you take it anything, it will be remaining one and the same ones. Then why to check for multiple things? So for that particular reason, we have changed. Okay. Now, can you guys able to see the slide? Okay. So previous one, should I? Okay, we'll just go back to this. So main thing is with respect to your equivalence class, the motivation behind is one is to eliminate the gap, another one is to eliminate the redundancy. The redundancy is the one that we were checking it in the next slide. I'll just show you the slide also. So that's where we have designed this particular equivalence class. This is an upgraded version of your boundary value analysis. That's what we are saying. And one more thing, if you are picking in a one particular group, equivalence class is nothing but one group. So in that group, any value you take it, it should be resulted in the same particular thing. So it is not that only one value will be checking it, next value we will not check it. What happens, we don't know, no such particular things. Anything, whatever you take it, everything should be resulted in the same thing. So that's what it will be just saying it. See, redundancy, how we'll be eliminating, that's what they have given it. If I take an example, then you'll come to know. So elements of a partition or disjoint. Uh, 10 minutes left out. We'll just quickly move around this particular slides. Okay, elements of a partition or disjoint. Disjoint means what? Same value should not be repeated in any particular ranges. That's what they are saying. It. Gaps, the union of all the partition elements is a full input space. Whatever the input space that you're taking, each one you're not leaving it. Everything you're taking it in that particular consideration. That's what the meaning is. We'll just take an example, then you'll come to know. So this is where the motivation line. This is the redundancy. For this particular redundancy, if you put the equivalence class, this will be eliminated. Because once we check for 3, 3, 3, it is not necessary that I need to check for 10, 10, 10, because both are giving the same particular output. So we can eliminate it. If we are checking for one, -1, -1, -1, it is not necessary that you need to check for, although it is not possible with respect to your boundary value analysis. If you're going with respect to this particular thing, then it will be giving you the output. So all these particular things were the motivation for us to go with the equivalence class partition. Any doubt? Since there was a delay in sharing the slide, any doubt? Okay, fine. The next thing is your equivalence class, right? So as I told you, you need to remember, you need to recall the discrete mathematical structure concepts. Two concepts are there. One is called as functions, another one is called as relations. Both are very important to move further in the equivalence class, because based on the relations, your entire design is available. So that's why first this particular, whenever we call it as a relation or a function, we have two particular things. One is called as domain and the one is called as range. So we have one-to-one mapping with respect to each one of the domain values with respect to the range values. So that's how it will be just taking into consideration. If we have Equivalence class testing uses information about the functional mapping itself to identify the test cases. So that means this is the domain is nothing but your particular functional mapping. So sorry, your domain is nothing but the input that you are choosing it. Ranges are nothing but the test cases that you are designed that you wanted to design with. So this particular functional mapping to the same particular thing itself is called as identifying the or equivalence class testing technique. I hope there is a confusion in it. Fine. So this is the domain. So this is, I'll take it as input. This is with respect to your range. Range, normally it will be having some values. Domain will be having some values. From each of the input values, we'll just check for the output. If that output is existing, we'll leave it. We'll not take it further for any other particular check, because we know that the same particular output will be reflected enough. So that's why we'll not consider that. So the next thing is, suppose if you are checking with respect to your domain to range or range to domain, it will be the resultant will be one and the same. So identifying itself with respect to functional mapping is nothing but your equivalence class. Just move on to the next one. So given a relation is an equivalence class if and only if all x, y, and z elements of S is reflexive. Reflexive in the sense it should be self-pointed to itself. If it is compared with itself, it should result in the same particular manner. There should not be any change. Symmetric. If you are taking two variables, whenever you are relating to each other, vice versa should also be possible. If x is related to y, then y should also be related to x. And the last one is transitive. X is related to y is related to z, x is also related to z. So this is what we are concentrating. So it should be reflexive, it should be symmetric, it should be transitive. Reflexive in the sense, for same variable, if you are asking the relation to itself, it should result in the same thing n number of times. If you are comparing with another variable value, if you are finding it a particular relation, if you are keeping it, then vice versa is also possible. If x is related to y, then y should also be related to x. That's what it says. Whereas with respect to transitive, x related to y followed by y related to z. Three particular different members are available. In this particular case, x is also related to z. That's what it says. So these 3 points will be considering with respect to your equivalence class relation. Any doubt? If you get confused with respect to it, say domain with respect to the same value if you are taking, then also it should be reflected enough. If you are considering from one particular domain to another particular domain and the relation value, whatever the output that you are taking it, if it is one and the same, then also it is correct. If you are having like this particular domain, 3 domains are there, each domain one value, then also the resultant should be one and the same. If that is the case, then we'll move forward. Otherwise, we just consider that there is some problem. Normally, whenever you want to create an equivalence class relation, it induces a partition of the set, whatever the total space set that we are having it will be just partitioned into several sections. How it will be partitioned, that is what they are saying. The intersection of any two subsets is empty. That means no redundancy. No common elements will be available. This eliminates total common elements. Whereas this one, second one, it will be just checking for the gaps. Gaps will be eliminated. The union of all subsets will be nothing but the original set. Yes. So all the elements are considered now. So we are not leaving any particular element as a behind with respect to your test case design. So that is how you are just protecting enough with respect to your equivalence class relation. Any doubt? Hello, am I audible? Any doubt? Any doubt? So what you can take it from here is your equivalence class relation. If you want to take it, then it should be having, if you have three elements x, y, and z of the sample set yes, then x to x relation to x should be reflexive. First one, that is y r y, z r z should be there. Symmetric, x is relative to relation x relative to y, then y should relative to x. Similarly, x relative to z, z should relative to x. So it should go on. All the three combinations you need to check it. So transitive, x related to y, y related to z, then x should related to z. So that's what it says. So how you can eliminate your particular gaps and your particular redundancy? This is based on your intersection of any two subsets. If you have a sample set, yes. So in that sample set, if you divide it, suppose less than a minute is there, I'll just try to. Okay, quickly we'll just, we have a one particular variable called as x. X ranges from 1 to 10. Similarly, we have a range of values called as y. It also ranges from 1 to 10. Similarly, z ranges from 1 to 10. So this is what the values are. So with respect to this particular values, if you are taking the ranges, it's giving me less than 1 minute. So fine. If you're going with x, y, z in this particular range, so 1 with respect to, you have 1 with respect to 1. Whatever the output that you are getting it, the same output will be replicated with respect to 2. So I won't check for 2, 2, 2. I'll go with 1, 1, 1. I'll finish off. Similarly, I'll just change it to some other particular value, 3, 4, 5. All these values are in this particular range itself. So that's